Good afternoon. We'd like to acknowledge that we are gathered here on the traditional territory of Robinson Superior Treaty Area. And we'd like to welcome you to this week's video. We are a few days into Module 2, Section 2 for the PQP course. And Christy's going to lead us off in the beginning of the conversation.
So we had a good time reading some of your reflections, particularly around the piece of personal life and workplace balance and your EQI reflections. And I think one of the things I wanted to comment on, this is really a part where you get to practice that reflective practitioner piece. You get an opportunity to see where your strengths are as in regards to emotional intelligence, where your areas for growth are, and really reflect on an action plan to improve those. And I think you've already started to see, and those of you that were with us in part one, that a lot of this job is about collaboration, building collaborative environments, and building self-efficacy with staff, and creating trusting, safe spaces where people feel they can take risks, and that includes students, parents, and staff. It's also about building relationships, and that's the underpinning, the undercurrent of all of it. And really, unless you're really in touch with those emotional intelligence skills, that's a difficult thing to do. So that emotional intelligence piece is the piece I think that we all have an opportunity to grow in. It's a continual process for us. And I just wanted to really tell you that I appreciated your introspective into the areas for growth and your strengths, because many of you talked about the experiences you had and how you could see that reflected in those experiences, and then you talked about really solid action plans. And I think that's going to serve you going forward. It's a great practice to get into, regardless of what skill you're talking about, whether it's instructional leadership or setting directions or securing accountability. It's just a really good practice to get into, and that's just reflecting on where your strengths lie, where your areas for growth are, and what you're going to do to move forward. So, and that's a big part of your annual learning plan as you go forward as a vice principal or principal in the province. So, thank you.
And then the other piece that some people, actually about half of you, have responded to already is the little exercise that we put together with Peggy McIntosh, having you think about updating that and what it might look like from your position as a principal in a school. And by just the very virtue of being the school leader, there is a certain place of privilege that you hold, whether it's really, in this case, I think it's often just based on your qualifications and being the person that ultimately is responsible for everything that happens in the building. So while it is a privileged place, it is also a place of great responsibility and service to the community. So I'm looking forward to reading what people are writing about that. And the people that have written so far have really been very thoughtful about thinking about what an updated statement might look like, and then what that place of privilege might look like from their position as the principal of a school, and recognizing that everyone will have a different space depending on their own context. Keeping in mind we have people from all over the world in our course. And so what in one place may look like a position of privilege may not have quite the same kind of privilege in another space in the world. So I appreciate reading that. And then we'll be taking those two pieces that we spoke about and moving it into the case study. So we have, with the EQI framework, a case study that's set up with ABCDE. And really there's a chart there that you can fill in. And then if you can do a little reflection piece at the end of it about that. When we're having you do writing in your reflective space, really, if you can please be I guess, truthful and actually say what you want to say, and dig a little deeper as opposed to just putting things on the surface. We have some people that are really doing what we would term maybe a deep dive into their learning, and other people that are kind of working on the surface area. So this is set up as a self-reflective exercise for you to share with your colleagues, and for people to do some questioning of each other's thinking. So put yourself out there. I hope it's a safe place for you to do that. We do ask, though, as well, that you maintain that confidentiality with each other and also within the situations that you're working in, so that whatever's happening stays within our group of learners.
One other just procedural piece, folks should have signed up by now on the Google Doc for your practicum presentations. If you have questions about those, please let us know via the email. We're just asking that you present either the work you've completed or the work you're doing right now or the work you've done so far regarding your practicum. That includes your goals for it, what reflections or what pieces you have to add to it. It just gives everybody an opportunity to delve into some discussion, you to get some feedback on your practicum work, and an opportunity for us to just all deepen our learning a little bit. So if you have not already signed up in the Google Doc to get a spot in one of the modules, please do so. The modules are limited to 6, so I know there were some that had asked to go over that, and really just in respect of everybody's, to respect everyone's workload and the ability to manage that, we have limited each module to only 6. So if you can find one that also fits, that'd be great. So.
The other thing is I had a request through one of the students in my class to put some secondary examples up there. So Krista and I are in communication right now with some of our former students to see if they're willing to let us share their practicums with you. So as soon as we get those permissions, we'll be putting those in the practicum piece. Lots of P's there. So on that note, the workload, I think, from what I can see, we had a few latecomers to the group, but everyone seems to be now into the group. We had a few welcomes just over the past few days. But as you can see, the workload, I think, in part 2 is not as heavy as it was in part 1. And part of the reason for that is you are facilitating for 10 days your own practicum, and then you have to kind of keep track on that through the rest of the group. So be thoughtful with your practicum, please. Share everything that you can possibly share. It is not just for your own learning, but also for the learning of your colleagues who may be working within that. On a personal note, I recall seeing a few years ago one of the students did something called a school within a college, SWAC. And in my current job that I have right now, we're actually engaged in one for the first time. And so I went to the meeting thinking, oh, I know something about this, even though I hadn't actually lived it yet. But we're right in the early stages now of getting it set up. So that was nice for me. That was one thing that I took out of reading one of the practicums that 2 years later actually showed up in my work life. So that was nice. So we'd like to wish you a good week. And please don't hesitate if you have any questions. Just shoot us an email and we'll get back to you.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.